Every minute of silence you invest in your discipline echoes back as thunder in your destiny. Because while the masses chase dopamine, distraction, and ease, you are carving a throne with nothing but repetition and resolve. They want quick. You want permanent. They want applause. You want alignment. And so you do what few dare. You fall in love with the unseen. You fall in love with the early mornings no one claps for, the late nights no one documents, the sacrifices no one will ever know you made. Why? Because you understand. The universe is not watching your intentions. It's watching your patterns. It's not responding to what you hope for. It's responding to what you become. That's the invisible game. You don't just attract what you want. You attract what you are. Your standards, your rituals, your alignment with what you say you value. There are two types of people in this world. Those who chase the illusion of success, and those who become success in private until the world has no choice but to notice. Which one are you? Because if you're waiting to feel ready, you've already lost. If you think someone's coming to give you permission, you've already delayed the game. If you're waiting for conditions to be perfect, you'll still be waiting on your deathbed. The invisible game doesn't need permission. It demands conviction. When David faced Goliath, he didn't have the perfect weapon, the perfect armor, or the crowd's belief. He had a sling, 5 stones, and certainty, not in what was seen, but in what was unseen, a spiritual obsession, an unshakable knowing that his purpose was bigger than his fear. And so he ran toward the giant, not away, not around, toward. What about you? What giant are you dancing around because you fear failure? Because you fear being seen as small before you grow tall? You've forgotten. The size of the obstacle is irrelevant if the size of your obsession is greater. This is not the age of talent. This is the age of alignment, where those who master the inner world rule the outer one. You want clarity? Build discipline. You want abundance? Build discipline. You want impact, power, peace, legacy? Build discipline. Because everything visible is built on what is invisible. And every throne in the world was once just a whisper in someone's mind, turned into a mountain by sheer repetition. People talk about motivation like it's a spark, but sparks don't last. They vanish. Discipline is the fire you build from the spark. Obsession is the oxygen you pour on it. And alignment is the reason it never goes out. Understand this. You were not born to merely survive. You were not given breath to coast. You were given will, not to react to the world, but to reshape it. Your mind is a forge. Your habits are the hammer. And every single day, with every choice you make, you are bending steel into destiny. But here's the paradox of greatness. You don't rise when the world cheers. You rise when no one sees. You rise when it's inconvenient. When your mind is screaming, "Quit," and you whisper back, "Not today." Success doesn't shout, it whispers. It hides in the reps you do after failure. It lives in the decisions no one sees. It reveals itself after the storm, when the weak have disappeared, and only the obsessed remain. Think of Thomas Edison. 10,000 failures before the bulb. But he didn't count failures. He counted feedback. He wasn't obsessed with outcome. He was obsessed with process. People remember the light, but they forget the dark he fought through to invent it. You see, the world is addicted to visibility, but legacy is built in obscurity, in what you do when no one claps, when no one posts about it, when you suffer in silence and choose to keep going anyway. That is the invisible game, a game of the mind, a war of decisions, a test of your belief in what is possible, even when everything around you says it's not. Ask yourself, would you still train if no one saw your body transform? Would you still build if no one clapped when you succeeded? Would you still rise if every voice around you doubted? If your answer is yes, then you're not chasing applause. You're chasing alignment. You're not chasing the visible prize. You're mastering the invisible path. And that's how legends are made. Every empire was once just a vision inside one man's mind. Every revolution began as a whisper, not a roar. Every fortune was invisible before it became inevitable. And that's the problem with most people. They only believe in what they can see. But the great ones, the world builders, the game changers, the destiny defiers, they operate in reverse. They see it before it's real. They believe in the unseen more than the seen. They act on the invisible before it's measurable. They don't wait for permission. They don't need proof. They become the proof. Understand this. Reality bends for the mind that refuses to break. But only if your vision is more powerful than your environment. Only if your inner world is louder than the noise around you. If you obsess over chaos, your life becomes chaos. If you obsess over fear, you find fear in every corner. But if you obsess over clarity, if you wake up every day and lock eyes with your mission, if you tune out the static and focus like your future depends on it, because it does, then the universe has no choice but to rearrange around that fire. Look at Henry Ford. He didn't just want to build cars. He wanted to reshape society. People laughed, said it couldn't be done. You can't mass-produce cars. You can't pay workers $5 a day. You can't create a machine for the common man. But obsession doesn't need permission. It just needs vision, courage, and execution. And he did it, not because he had all the answers, but because he refused to settle. He obsessed until the impossible became inevitable. That's the difference. Average people chase what's possible. The obsessed create what's possible. They're not waiting to find a way. They become the way. So ask yourself right now, what are you obsessed with? Not what you like, not what you're interested in, but what you can't go a day without thinking about. What keeps you up at night? What you'd still pursue if there was no reward at all. Because that's where your power lives. And if you're not obsessed with anything yet, it's not because it doesn't exist. It's because you've been distracted too long to hear it calling. Silence the noise. Turn inward. Because the mission you were born for is already inside you. And once you find it, once you lock on like your soul depends on it, you become unbreakable. When you walk through the world with inner certainty, you stop begging for validation from people who don't even believe in themselves. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop waiting for the green light, because you are the green light. Obsession rewires your nervous system. It burns the bridges to distraction. It pulls you forward with a gravitational force no excuse can overcome. Look at Nikola Tesla, a man who saw frequencies, who dreamed in electricity, who talked to the unseen forces of the universe, as if they were old friends visiting for tea. He didn't care about trends. He didn't care about public applause. He was obsessed with truth, with invention, with what could be. They called him mad. They said he was detached from reality. But the reality you detach from is often the one that's keeping you average. He lived in the invisible world of possibility. And from that world came towers, currents, and technologies that now power yours. That's what obsession does. It makes you a vessel for the future. But here's the price. You have to let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be. You have to unlearn comfort, unlearn distraction, unlearn the idea that balance is always the goal. Because in the pursuit of mastery, balance is a myth. When it's your time to rise, you go all in. You don't negotiate with mediocrity. You wage war on it. Discipline becomes your armor. Obsession becomes your sword. And every morning, when the world hits snooze, you hit legacy mode. You study when no one's watching. You train when it's inconvenient. You build when it's lonely. Because you know this truth: all greatness is born in solitude, and obsession is the spark that lights the flame. Do you know why most people never change their lives? It's not because they're weak. It's because they dabble. They touch the edge of transformation, then run back to the warmth of comfort. But the obsessed, they burn the boats. They leave no option but forward. They don't try to become great. They decide to, and then act accordingly. So what are you deciding today? Will you let the distractions devour another year of your life? Or will you declare war on the noise and build something eternal? The world doesn't need another passive observer. It needs you obsessed, disciplined, lit with purpose. Because the invisible game is rigged against the lazy, but it rewards the relentless. There is a law more powerful than gravity, more consistent than time, more ruthless than any economic collapse. It's the law of identity. You don't get what you wish for. You don't get what you pray for. You get what you believe yourself to be. The invisible game is not about chasing. It's about embodying. It's about becoming a living, breathing signal of the destiny you say you want. Your beliefs are the blueprint. Your thoughts lay the bricks. Your actions, they pour the concrete. And your standards, they build the walls that either imprison you in mediocrity or protect the kingdom of your greatness. You can't plant seeds of doubt and harvest fruit of confidence. You can't keep entertaining average decisions and expect extraordinary results. So stop asking how to win. Start asking, who do I need to become to win automatically? That's the invisible game. And here's the truth they don't teach you in school. You're already playing it. Every thought you think, every time you say just this once to a compromise, every time you let fear vote, every time you let comfort steer the wheel, you are casting votes in the invisible realm for who you are becoming. But here's the good news. You can change the ballot. You can reprogram the player. You can install a new identity so powerful that your old self wouldn't even recognize you. This is what Edison did. He failed over 10,000 times before creating the light bulb, but he never identified as a failure. He identified as a creator. Winners don't let failure define them. They let it refine them. They use every setback as fuel, every betrayal as firewood, every dark night of the soul as proof that dawn is near. The invisible game rewards that mindset, the one who refuses to fold. When the storm gets louder, you don't train just to survive the chaos. You train to command through it. You meditate not just to find peace, but to become the source of it when everything around you is collapsing. Because in the invisible game, the real flex is emotional mastery. The real edge is inner stillness. When the world is screaming, it's how you show up when no one's watching. It's what you do when motivation dies. It's how many times you get up, even when no one claps. Most people want rewards without paying the rent. But success charges daily rent. And the currency is your obsession, your discipline, your consistency, your identity. You're not losing because you're not talented. You're losing because you're playing visible games with invisible rules. But when you master the inner battlefield, you walk differently, you speak differently, you think with precision, you move with intention, you stop reacting to life and start orchestrating it. This game is rigged for the disciplined, not the lucky, not the popular, not the ones with perfect childhoods or ideal circumstances, but the ones who learn to stand alone and stay standing, the ones who mastered their inner frequency, so deeply that the world had no choice but to match it. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need you to believe so intensely that reality bends to the strength of your certainty. You see, everything visible was once invisible. The airplane was once a fantasy. The internet once science fiction. The empire you're dreaming of is not fantasy. It's pre-physical. It's in the lab of your imagination, waiting for you to commit so ruthlessly it has to materialize. But most people lose here, not because they lack potential, but because they keep breaking the invisible laws. They want change without discomfort, growth without loss, strength without resistance. But nature doesn't work that way. The eagle learns to fly by being pushed from the cliff. The diamond forms under pressure. The seed must crack to bloom. So why do you expect to win without breaking? Understand this. If you are not transforming, you are decaying. The invisible game punishes stagnation. It punishes those who sit still in a world that demands motion. It punishes the passive. It punishes the "I'll start tomorrow" crowd. Because every moment you delay, your old identity strengthens its grip. This is war, not with the world, with the weak version of you. And the battleground is silent. No applause, no camera, just you against the old you. Will you submit to comfort, or will you bleed for transformation? Will you keep feeding your distractions, or will you starve them and feed your future? There are no shortcuts here, only truth, only brutal self-honesty, only the daily grind of alignment, of waking up and living like the version of you that already has what you want. Because the invisible game isn't about hustle alone. It's about alignment. Hustling in the wrong direction still takes you far, just away from your destiny. But when your obsession, your identity, your energy, and your actions all align, the universe can't help but respond. That's when you become magnetic. Not because you're special, but because you're in tune. You're tuned to the frequency of mastery. You walk into rooms and shift the energy, not with ego, with clarity, because clarity is louder than noise. And obsession, pure, purpose-driven obsession, that's the sharpest sword in the invisible war. But here's the catch. The invisible game only pays those who are willing to lose who they were, to become who they must be. Most people never make it, not because they don't try, but because they try while still clinging to their old identity. You can't walk into the future wearing the clothes of your past. You can't play in the big leagues with a backyard mentality. You must kill the version of yourself that's addicted to excuses. You must bury the voice that says, "I'm not ready," because readiness is a lie. Nobody feels ready. Champions move before they're prepared, and become prepared by moving. This is the paradox of the invisible game. Confidence is not the starting point. It is the reward for taking messy, terrifying action. When doubt is screaming in your ears, that's how giants are built. That's how empires rise. That's how immortality is earned. Not by comfort, but by becoming so dangerously committed to your vision that no rejection, no betrayal, no failure, no delay can break your rhythm. You want to know why average people stay average? Because they look at the visible scoreboard. They look at their bank account. They look at their follower count. They look at how many people are clapping, and they let that determine their faith. But the masters, they don't care if no one's clapping. They don't care if it looks like they're losing, because they're not here to win the visible game. They're here to master the invisible one. They know that belief comes before proof. That vision comes before validation. That alignment comes before applause. Think about Henry Ford. They laughed when he imagined a horseless carriage. They mocked the idea of mass production. But he didn't argue with the world. He built his belief in silence, and then he made the world listen. Edison failed 10,000 times. Disney was told he had no imagination. Oprah was told she wasn't made for TV. The invisible game never looks like it's working until it does. So I'll ask you again, are you willing to look foolish? Are you willing to obsess over a vision that no one else sees? Are you willing to suffer now for a life so aligned, so powerful, so free, that the world calls it lucky? This is not about positive thinking. This is about personal warcraft. This is about rewiring your brain to reject mediocrity like poison. This is about becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait to feel motivated, because motivation is a child, but discipline is a warrior, and discipline never betrays you. Discipline keeps its promises. Discipline builds your name in silence, before the world ever hears it. But here's the brutal truth. The invisible game has no finish line. It's not about arriving. It's about becoming, again and again and again, because the highest version of you isn't a place you reach. It's a standard you hold. It's a sacred contract you sign with your own soul, that you will never again negotiate with weakness, never again shrink for safety, never again betray your mission for a moment of approval. Because once you've tasted alignment, once you've walked in obsession, once you've become addicted to growth, average becomes unbearable. You can't unsee your potential. You can't unknow your power. You can't go back to sleep. Once your soul has awakened, so rise. You want to change your life? Then stop fighting battles in the visible world. Because the visible is a shadow. The visible is delayed truth. The visible is the residue of your older decisions. The real war is happening in the invisible, in the thoughts you tolerate, in the standards you allow, in the voices you entertain, in the small invisible choices you make when no one is watching. You think the world is holding you back? It's not. It's just echoing the vibrations of your own inner war. It's just reflecting your self-image back at you. It's showing you the quality of your rituals, the worth of your discipline, the level of your faith. You don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. You get what you believe you deserve. And you always fall to the level of the invisible systems you've built. And here's the brutal truth. You can fake it on the outside, but you can't fake vibration. You can't fake energy. You can't fake obsession. The universe doesn't respond to what you pretend to want. It responds to what you obsess over like your life depends on it. You think obsession is unhealthy? Then stay average. Stay confused. Stay floating in the gray zone where dreams go to die. Because the real ones, the builders, the visionaries, the obsessed, they don't dabble. They burn. They burn in silence while the world mocks them. They burn when it's lonely. They burn when there's no applause. They burn so intensely in the invisible realm that reality eventually has no choice but to kneel to their vision. Success doesn't come to the lucky. It comes to the aligned. To those who align their entire being with what they want. Their thoughts, their speech, their actions, their identity. No gaps, no excuses, no maybes. This is the invisible game, and you either master it, or you lose the visible one. You lose your dreams. You lose your days to distraction. You lose yourself to doubt. And you wake up one day realizing you never lost because of the world. You lost because of the war inside. So get up, pick a purpose that sets your soul on fire, and burn for it until the world catches fire with you.